Hey everybody, welcome to the Jay Young Show. Here we go today, man. We're excited to have Anthony Scaramucci, the Mooch, the Mooch on today. He's founder and managing partner at SkyBridge Capital. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about his Salt Forum, which he just said is 16 years long, with his son, not his brother. I looked on the website and thought, oh, hey, this is anyway. But he also has co-host of two podcasts. We're going to talk about the rest of his politics, U.S., and also the open book. A long-suffering, just like us Dallas Cowboy fans, a long-suffering New York Met fan. He has a stint at Goldman Sachs. He had a 11-day stint in the White House and, Harvard Law School. This guy's been there, done that. I look forward to having him on. Anthony, welcome to the show today.
Well, I mean, first of all, I appreciate you saying 11 days, Jay, because a lot of people say 10 and it hurts my feelings. Why jip me out of that last day? That was a big day when I got myself fired. So,
oh my gosh.
But anyway, it's good to be on with you. I'm a huge fan of yours, by the way. I've one of my buddies, Ray Solomon, introduced me to your show, and so I've been locked into it for the last several months, and you do a great job. So thank you for including me.
I appreciate that, man. It's great having you on, and I appreciate you coming on. Give us your insight, man. I tell you what, you have incredible. You have an incredible resume. You've been there, done that, man. I love that because, man, that means that my listeners can learn from somebody like you that has that experience. And man, we're
the ups and the downs, though. Jay, the ups and the downs, right? I got fired from the White House 30 years ago. I got fired from Goldman Sachs.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had some twists and turns in my career, but I'm, like you, I'm a blessed person. Got the opportunity to live in the United States, and one of the greatest things about our culture, if you get up in the morning and you keep working, good things happen.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what that's. If you don't get knocked down a few times, and you don't know how to get back up, and look at you now where you are today, which is absolutely perfect, awesome that you're there now. But it is about some of those. So tell me about some of those.
Yeah.
Kind of go through your career a little bit. So give me a little couple of.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't want to bore people, but I'll give you the career in like a 2-minute infomercial. So I went to a public school here on Long Island. I'm 61 years old. I spent almost my entire life on Long Island, except for going to school in Boston. So I went to school in the town of Port Washington. My dad was a crane operator. My mother was actually a makeup artist. She used to do the makeup for the weddings out here on Long Island. So I never got to see my mom on Saturdays, but it was a great upbringing. Middle class family, lots of Italian food. Tufts, Harvard. I went to Tufts University, economics major, Harvard Law School, and got my JD. And then I went to Goldman Sachs. I was there for 18 months, got fired, and then, believe it or not, got rehired into Goldman Sachs into a separate area. So I spent about a combination of 7 years there. Then I created my own business in 1996, sold it to Neuberger Berman, and then Neuberger got bought by Lehman Brothers, and I spent a year there before I left to start SkyBridge. So I'm talking to you today on the 20th anniversary of SkyBridge. I started that
That's awesome.
firm in March of 2005. And so 20 years goes by very quickly, but we've got $4 billion under management, very, very diversified portfolio of private equity, hedge funds, and cryptocurrencies. And the way I got into politics was really accidental. I was really just trying to find a way to network with people in the business community. And so I wrote my first check to Rudy Giuliani in 1993 for mayor. It was Young Republicans for Rudy. I was one of those. He won. And then I had a successive series of people that I worked for, including the Bush family, Mitt Romney, George Pataki, who became the governor of New York, spent 12 years as governor. And it was it's exciting time to be in politics, of course. And then when Jeb Bush came out of the race in 2015, I went to work for Donald Trump. I had known him here in New York for many years. When the president won, he put me on his executive transition team, which I did for a while. And then when he got into office, 6 months into his term, he hired me. Of course, we were sparking and fighting in the White House together. I got fired after 11 days, very famous firing. And then I went back to SkyBridge, and I stayed on course. We made a Bitcoin investment about 5 years ago. I wrote a book on Bitcoin. If you don't mind, I'll just show it.
Yeah,
It's called A Little
absolutely.
Bitcoin. That came out a few months back. It's available on Amazon and other places, but it just explains what Bitcoin is to people. And so we have a pretty large investment in Bitcoin, just under 10 figures in Bitcoin, about 800 or $900 million of Bitcoin exposure.
Wow.
And we've got 6,000 clients, nice business. But that lot of ups and downs, a lot of twists and turns, frankly.
Yeah.
But like you, I'm an entrepreneur, and so I think the big message for people is you stay in things, don't give up the fight. Also have a sense of humor. When you're getting your what kicked, you got to be able to laugh about it. If you can't
Yeah.
laugh about it, then if they're parroting you on Saturday Night Live and you're not laughing, then you need to see a therapist or something like that. You got to be
Yeah.
able to take yourself less seriously
Yeah.
than sometimes you feel like you need to. That's
Yeah.
probably the biggest.
Yeah. That's awesome. What a career. Learning and being mocked on Saturday Night Live, or knowing Donald Trump and being in that position. Wow. I mean, what?
Yeah, well, I did 71 campaign stops with Donald Trump in 2016. I spent a
Wow.
lot of time with him.
Wow.
We just listen. He's doing a lot of good things. I'm not one of these Trump derangement syndrome people. Okay, if you really get to know me, I'll tell you what I like about what he's doing. I'll tell
Yeah.
you what I don't like about what he's doing. Notwithstanding the fact that I got fired, I don't take it personally. I think he's done a really good job on the cryptocurrency situation. He's done a good job of taking the border back and trying to strengthen the border. I think all Americans believe that we need to have a stronger border, our southern border. I'm not in love with the tariffs. As an economist, I can tell you
Yeah.
why they're damaging to our economy and certainly damaging to some of the sectors of our economy that we want to do well, like the automotive sector.
Yeah.
But he's our president. And by the way, I'm of an American, so he's our president. I want him to do well.
Yeah.
But we do have free speech in the country, so if I think he's not doing something well, people ask me my opinion, I share it.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's great. And I appreciate that, because a lot of people are not really, they don't have all the information, and you've learned a lot, and you're in the trenches, and you talk to a lot of great people with your forum and all the other things. So people that listen, all they gotta do is turn you on, and man, it's great. I mean, I was listening to your podcast with Michael, was it Michael Wolf, the All or Nothing, wrote
Yep.
the book All or Nothing. I was listening to that,
Yep.
and man, I tell you what, it's just great information, in today's
Yeah.
world, and how fast you can get it, so that's really good.
I mean, it's funny that you bring him up because Michael, here's another lesson for your viewers and listeners. Michael excoriated me in his first book. I mean, he ripped me to shreds.
Wow.
His source on that was Steve Bannon, right? So Steve and I don't like each other. And so rather than being upset with Michael, I picked up the phone and I called him and I said, Michael, okay, I got excoriated in the book. I said, but you didn't even call me and ask me for my opinion of what happened. It was all 100% what his opinion. Fights are, come on. It's he said and she said, and then it's the truth, right? And
Right.
so,
Right.
so I said, you got to give me a chance. And so he said, I'll tell you what, when I write my next book, I'll give you the chance to interview me and, all's fair and no problem. So
Yeah.
that book is a very, very good book. I have it right here, by the way. I will recommend it to people.
Yeah.
Again, if you like Donald Trump or dislike Donald Trump, this is a very good book because it's very well sourced. And believe it or not, he even talked to President Trump about that book.
Wow.
So
Wow.
again, it's good. It's a good piece of history.
Yeah. And you said that was your favorite Michael Wolff book, and he's written many, and you have too. I
Yeah,
mean,
very
you've
well
written,
sourced.
You've written
Very
a lot
smart guy.
Yeah. 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 Hey, I've got a question here from a really good friend of mine here. Do you mind if I read it to you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Matt
Please.
Fitzsimmons, stockbroker, SMU guy here in Dallas. I've known him for a long time. He says, does he think Trump will keep moving forward with these policies if we start to see rising unemployment, slowing GDP, and a falling stock market? How long is that leash for this administration?
Yeah.
You got an
So,
opinion?
so that's a really good question. And I, again, I don't want to be overly critical. I just think it's not well thought out. The tariffs are not well thought out. And
Yeah.
so tariffs are good, Jay, if you have a market that's being subsidized by another government. So let's say the Chinese government is going to its steel manufacturers and saying, here's extra dough. you'll now be able to price your steel in the U.S. market at predatory pricing, way below where the market should be. And then the United States should say, well, that's unfair to our workers, so we have to have a tariff to create an equalization. So when there's a predatory environment or something happening internationally that's threatening to our workers, then yes, you gotta have a tariff. But a blanket tariff like that is going to stall the automobile manufacturers. If the president goes through a 25% tariff like he's talking about with Canada, the average U.S. automobile will go up by 12,000 US dollars. So
Wow.
you will price that automobile out of the market for a lot of people. So the gentleman that's writing in that asked this question is asking a really, really good question. The market is down on the year now, down 2.5%. It's down since the president got inaugurated. Uh, and you would say, well, why is that? He's supposedly pro-business, but tariffs are not. Blanket tariffs like that and arbitrary tariffs like that are not pro-business. And let's be fair to the president for a second. He's saying that he wants these tariffs in place to restore manufacturing. That's what he wants. He wants to restore manufacturing. I'm sorry about
Right.
that buzzer.
No.
He wants to restore manufacturing. I don't think that that works. We're in a totally different environment now. So market weakens. The president will pull those tariffs. He's pulled some of those tariffs twice now,
Right.
and he's delayed the tariffs on the automobiles till the 2nd of April. I predict that those probably won't go through. I think he's got a lot of pressure on him right now not to put those tariffs through. So
Yeah.
let's see if I'm
I bet he
correct
does.
about that.
Well, I was talking about it on the show a couple of weeks ago, or last week or week before, just about. I think it's just a negotiating tactic. I mean, I'd hate. Is he really that tough of a negotiator? I mean, is he really? I mean, does he find something and use it to his advantage the most? I mean, is he? He seemed like a really shrewd businessman.
I think he's a hard ass. If I get to
Yeah.
say that word on your
Yeah.
show, I hope you don't
Yeah.
mind. I mean, he's
No,
a little
no.
bit of a hard ass. So I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing, particularly with our adversaries. But I don't necessarily see the Mexican government or the Canadian government as our adversaries. Moreover, he himself, Donald J. Trump, negotiated the USMC, the U.S. Mexican Canada trade deal. So the trade deal that's in place right now is the one that the first Trump administration negotiated, that Mr. Trump himself, President Trump, hailed that trade agreement as the best trade agreement ever in the world.
Wow.
And so he's going back on that now, and he's ratcheting up tariffs. And I just want to remind people about a few things. And you know this from the oil and gas industry. A lot of our refineries are set up to refine Alberta crude. It's a heavier crude.
Right.
It gets shipped over by pipeline or by truck. It gets refined here in the United States. If they cut that oil, or that oil becomes too expensive, it's going to hurt the U.S. economy. It will cause inflation.
Right.
And then, of course, it causes deflation as the economy rolls over
Right.
and the economic growth slows and we get into a big recession. So I hope those things don't happen. The stock market's telling you that they believe it is going to happen. But listen, one thing about President Trump, he does use the stock market as an arbiter for his success. And so maybe the decline in share prices will influence him not to do what he's saying to people that he wants to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. That makes sense. Boy, and I don't. You said ass, so maybe I can say shit show. The Zelensky Ukraine. What was that all about? Is that? I mean,
I don't think
Man.
I don't think it's the right approach. So let me just say this, Jay. I'm in the mansion. And we're in the homeowners association together, and your house has been set on fire by an arson. And now you're calling me and you're like, hey, can I use your garden hose? I got to get the house to be set off of fire.
right.
And so I got the garden hose out. I'm helping you. I invite you into my living room. Then I bring the television cameras in and I start bashing you in my living room.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the right thing to do. And I think it sends shockwaves around the world that the United States, who was the beacon of hope and freedom for mankind, and the United States that would reject an aggressor relationship against a ally, and the United States that signed a security agreement with the Ukrainian government in 1994. It's 31 years later. We were dedicated to the principle and the proposition of protecting the Ukraine against Russia. And now the president is siding with Vladimir Putin. I think it's very rough on our European allies.
Wow.
It's obviously rough on the Ukrainian people. And I think it's dangerous. And now, we sent them weaponry. They bought some weaponry, and we've canceled the signal intelligence on the weaponry. So now they don't even have the coordinates now. So missile strikes are hitting civilians
Right.
in Kiev, and we had anti-missile batteries there to protect those civilians, but President Trump cut the signals intelligence to those people. So people listening in, if you guys think that that's right, somebody write in and explain why you think that that's right. But I don't think that that's right. And also, Ukraine did not start that war.
Right.
President Trump is in the UN voting with North Korea and China to suggest that the Russians were not the aggressor. I don't see how that makes sense. And I think again, I want to call balls and strikes. There's some things that President Trump is doing that are good.
Yeah.
But those things I think are really bad to us. I just got back from a summit meeting of consultants in Amsterdam. It was a big conference there. There were several NATO representatives there that are really upset about the direction that the United States is taking in terms of the overall security umbrella for the free world.
Wow. Wow. Unbelievable. That's and I think he's right. I mean, we shouldn't just give money just like tens of billions or hundreds of billions, whatever. I can't remember how much money exactly we've given Ukraine.
Well, the president said it was 350 billion. We've given 160 billion.
Yeah,
it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Some of it is in materiel. Some of it is in munitions that are being manufactured here in the United States. So the money's actually going into the U.S. Economy, but then it's the materials getting shipped over to Ukraine.
Right.
And so the president is right that we don't want a forever war. The president is right that we'd like to end the killing and violence. But I don't know if he's necessarily right that we want to partition Ukraine.
Right.
And we want to set it up in a way that liquidates the democratic government there, and a Putin puppet is installed into Ukraine, because I think that could be a potential disaster for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm all about ending that war, but we have to be fair to the sovereignty and the integrity of that government. So the notion right now, a lot of his cabinet members are talking about this, that they're going to give 22 to 23% of the sovereign territory of Ukraine to Russia. I mean, look, it's not an optimal outcome. And what ends up happening is same thing in 2014 when Putin took Crimea. We did nothing. He said he was going to stop at Crimea, and then he invaded. I mean, this is what happens. When and again, I'm not comparing anybody to Hitler. I'm just talking about history.
Yeah.
Hitler told Chamberlain, "I'm taking this area called the Sudetenland. I want that area." It was part of Czechoslovakia and Yugoslavia. They said, "We don't want you to do it." He did it. Chamberlain went to go see him. He said, "That's it. I'm not going to do anything else." And Chamberlain said, "Okay, we have a peace deal with President Hitler or Chancellor Hitler." And of course, that didn't happen. By September 1st of 1939, he was marching in Poland. So there's a history of authoritarians saying one thing, doing another. Remember, the Minsk Agreement, which took place after the Crimea invasion, was supposed to be a permanent ceasefire.
Right.
And of course, that only lasted 8 years.
Wow. I like Elon's comment this week. He says, "Hey, would you everybody pay your taxes into the United States government so we can give it to other countries?" I mean, it's like, man, let's just pay our taxes here so we can make sure that we're taking care of other countries.
Listen, I get the frustration in the United States. I'm just saying that the U.S. has to be very careful because we're very integrated with everybody. And let me just say this to you and your viewers and listeners: if you looked and analyzed our economy, we're 4% of the U.S. We're 4% of the global population, 26% of the world's output. That's where we stand right now in 2025, and that's exactly where we were in 1980. So we've had 45 years. The entire world, as we both know, Jay, has grown a lot, economically expanded. Living standards are up in places like China, other parts of the world, and yet the United States has maintained its economic superiority and its mantle of economic leadership. And so there are reasons like that for that. Some of that money that we're giving overseas is actually to protect us. You know, when we give aid to Pakistan, it's in exchange for us keeping track of their nuclear weapons. We don't
Right.
want their nuclear weapons to end up on like Al Qaeda eBay, as an example.
Yeah.
And so we are paying them to give us the right to keep track of them.
Right.
I would argue that those payments, while if you look at them prima facie, wow, we gave a couple $1 billion to Pakistan last year, that's taxpayer money. Just imagine a cataclysm of one of those bombs going off in New York, Los Angeles, or Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's trillions of dollars of damage and irreparable harm to the United States. So there is some methodology to the things that we're doing overseas. Moreover, the soft payments that we sometimes make to countries does help the prestige of the country and helps us maintain our supremacy as it relates to the US dollar. You know, we are the reserve currency for the world for a reason. We've got very predictable laws here. We've got a diverse and decentralized government. There's a lot of reasons why we're doing so well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just want to be careful that we don't overly upset the apple cart. Is Elon Musk correct that there's waste and fraud in that government? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Should that waste and fraud be cut out? It should. But we just got to be very, very careful strategically about what we're doing as it relates to our soft power.
Yeah. I mean, that's not our decision what they do with the money. It's our decision to give it to them for some peace. You know, have world peace and not like you said, have nuclear.
Yeah, well,
bombs.
remember, we sent $14 billion, which is the equivalent of about $250 billion, $2024. We sent $14 billion in 1949 to Europe to help rebuild Europe, also known as the Marshall Plan. And people would say, well, why would the United States give all that money to Europe? Well, Europe was devastated. And if we didn't give them the money, they probably could have ended up in the jaws of the former Soviet Union, and it could have been communized. And that would have been devastating for U.S. markets, the capital market system, democracy, et cetera. So I could make the argument that that money was well spent, and it also gave America a big, rich market that we could export products into. So again, there's cost benefits to everything. And I think it's the same thing with the tariffs. There are benefits to those tariffs, and there are costs of those tariffs. And I think we just need to think out what the costs and benefits are and recognize that everything is really, really connected. If you pull a string over here, it could unravel something on the other side of the economic equation.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I can see that. I can definitely see that. Hey, I know that when you wrote the book, a little book of Bitcoin, and you have written other books as well, but that was definitely a clear, I say clear passion project for you. It seemed like you really,
No question.
really got into
question.
it. Really, tell our listeners here. What drove you to it? What do you think? Where's Bitcoin going? I mean, I know that, man, when President Trump got in, it's like went back from 70 to 100,000, and I think it's now at around 90 or something. But
Yeah, it's about 88. Yeah, no, listen, I mean, I've been a Bitcoin holder for 5 years.
Wow.
I believe in the long-term prowess.
where was it
and the
5 years
long-term
ago? Where was it?
I'm sorry?
Where was it 5 years ago?
So I bought my first Bitcoin at 12,000 in about
Wow.
October, September of 2020.
Awesome.
It went from 10,000 to 69,000 into November 2021, and then it dropped because of the leverage in the system, and there was a fraud committed by a big cryptocurrency exchange called FTX, and so it's a very volatile asset. It went from 12,000 to 69,000
Oh my gosh.
to 20,000, and now it's back up at 88,000. But I think the good news, and again, I want to be balanced. The Trump administration, and particularly the cryptocurrency policies being led by David Sachs, are well guided. They're exemplary, frankly. And I think David Sachs and his team understand that we need to make America the center of future financial technology innovation, future financial technology, fintech creativity. And so I think that stuff is happening. And this asset, as I explain in the book, is a store of value. This is a long-term digital store of value.
Right.
And if we're correct about this $88,000 price will go to $888,000.
Wow.
Because that would represent the same market capitalization of gold. And so is that going to happen today? No. Could it happen over a 5 or 10-year period? Yes. And again, if you owned Microsoft the last 10 years, you did 10 to 1 on your Microsoft. You did very well. I think this is an asset like that. And am recommending it to our clients. Can't, I guess, give you investment advice directly, but at least I can explain the reasons why we like it, and I try to do that in the book.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, okay, let me look at it again. I got Matt Fitzsimmons, my guy here. He wrote me another question. He said, also
Sure.
as a Bitcoiner, what does he make of the idea of a strategic reserve that includes this guy's pretty sharp here.
Mhm.
Includes us buying other crypto like Solana, ETH, etc. Do we really have the money to be buying non-productive
Yeah.
assets?
Yeah,
You read
so
it
he's a very
again?
smart guy. It's very smart. See, you got really smart viewers and listeners,
Hey,
Chad.
man,
Okay, see,
it makes me.
you got a good show.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
so he's asking great questions, and so I think what I would encourage him to do is I would encourage him to read the executive order and the memorandum that came out of the White House. It was published last night,
Wow.
and basically what they're saying is they're not going to use any taxpayer dollars. They're going to make sure that it's cost neutral to the United States. So, in other words, if they seize Bitcoin assets as a result of a crime or something like that, it's going to go into the reserve. Could they sell some assets to buy Bitcoin? That is quite possible as well. I think they made it very clear in that communique that the other coins are probably not candidates for the strategic reserve, but they could end up in a sovereign wealth fund situation in the U.S. Michael Grimes, who's been on Wall Street for a very long time, is going to lead the effort to create a sovereign wealth fund for the United States. And maybe there'll be some of those assets in there. But I think that the point is you're non-productive in some ways, but it would be very valuable to us if the rest of the world accepts Bitcoin as a digital store of value, like we have a strategic reserve in gold. I think it would be very valuable to us to have a strategic reserve in a digital asset like Bitcoin. And again, read the communique. They're going to keep the Bitcoins that they have. They're going to find revenue neutral ways to acquire more Bitcoin. And I think it's splitting the baby quite nicely. And so I don't think it's going to have a big negative impact on anybody. And additional taxpayer dollars are not going into it. But remember, and this is something everybody should know, we have about 27, 28 things in our strategic reserve. It's not just petroleum reserve and a gold reserve. We have palladium, lithium, rare earth minerals. There's medical supplies in our reserve.
Oh, wow.
God forbid that there's another pandemic and things like that. So there's a whole host of things that the U.S. government is warehousing to protect U.S. citizens and the economy. And I'm one of the people that believe that Bitcoin should be part of that. So, some can criticize me, say I'm talking my book, but you said something earlier, which I appreciate, and I appreciate the compliment that this was a passion project for me. I really do believe in it, and I do want people to understand it, and I do want people to think about having a piece of it in their investment portfolios long term.
Right. It definitely makes sense because I know that you can either buy it on an ETF with your stockbroker, or you can buy it or put it in your vault or do the 2-key thing with the vault and all that, or you could just do it with you, right? I could send you money and you could put it into your. I guess you have a fund.
We have a crypto fund. We have a hedge fund, diversified fund of funds. We have a lot of different ways you could do it. Or you could just buy IBIT, the BlackRock registered ETF, and put it in your brokerage account. You get the exact same return, and BlackRock stores it for you, and they do it at a very low price. So there's a lot of different ways to do it.
Yeah. I know a lot of old guys up here in Texas would love to put money with you because they say, "Oh yeah, me and Scaramucci are partners, and we're in this Bitcoin thing together." And of course, if you ask them I
got a lot of clients in Texas, and I get down there a lot, Jay. And what do they say about Texas? I got there as soon as I heard about it. Right? There's some great line about Texas.
Yeah.
How long you been in Texas? Well, as soon as I heard that there was a Texas, I showed up.
There you go, man. I tell you, it's a great place. But I love getting to New York too, man. I tell you, it's really a great city. But here in Texas, I drive 5 minutes to work. I drive my car 5 minutes to work, so it's a little different than I got back from LA 2 nights ago, and we took from the hotel to the LAX. It was like a hour. It was like 3 miles or 5 miles, and it was like an hour drive. And man, it's just
Mhm.
incredible. But Texas is a great place, except for the weather. You don't move here. You don't move here for the weather. I guarantee you that because it's.
Oh yeah, I've been in Midland, Texas in the hot summer. I stayed at that newish Marriott there. It was blazing out there. There's a big Bitcoin miner in that area. It's owned by Genesis Digital Assets, and I went to visit the miner. I have an investment in that company.
Oh wow, good,
Yeah,
good. So is that from the natural gas that they mine the
exactly.
Bitcoin?
Yeah,
Wow.
they're
Okay.
mining the Bitcoin with some of the blow off natural gas. It's also when you really learn about Bitcoin, they use the energy as a regulator for the grid, and so it's actually helped sustain the grid. And it's low. It's a low cost. You guys are providing low cost energy to mine Bitcoin out there. So listen, I enjoyed the trip, but it was blazing hot. To your point.
Yeah, man, it is hot. It gets hot. My my daughter's boyfriend played football at the University of Texas at Permian Basin, and in the summertime, it's like, oh my goodness, man, it's hot out
Brutal.
here. Double, yeah. Okay, hey, but it is, and we'll talk about the weather some other time. But it is great. Dallas is a great place. So do you know Greg Littman? Have you ever heard of Greg Littman?
Yes.
Did the deal with Deutsche Bank? Yeah, his
Yeah.
yeah. Greg is an old friend of mine. I knew his dad very well, and Tom. I knew Tom really well, and so when I get to New York, I love to go see Greg. He's had such a great success. I'll never forget the first time I was up there. I was a part owner of the Texas Rangers baseball. Don't get mad at me because I know you're a Mets fan, but I was a part owner in the Texas Rangers, and we were up there for the playoff game against the Yankees. I don't know if it's 2010 or 11. I think it was 2010.
Yeah, it was 2010.
2010, yeah.
It was October. It was October of 2010. Well, you and I were probably at the same game together, frankly, because I went to all those playoffs games. And by the way, you'll laugh at this. I went with Regis Philbin. I don't know if you remember that television host.
Yeah,
And who
absolutely.
did Regis Philbin bring with him that I sat next to with my wife? A guy named Donald J. Trump.
Oh my
We sat
goodness.
together. And we were in Hal Steinbrenner's box
Oh my gosh.
at that game.
Wow.
Unfortunately, his father had passed away the summer prior, and so
Wow.
it was the first Yankee playoffs that George Steinbrenner hadn't seen, and you know it was sad. It was sad in some ways, but Trump was with us that day.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
How funny is that, right?
That is very funny. And they put all the owners. We were up in the second deck. We weren't anywhere close to you, and I couldn't even see you. Probably they put up
Well,
the
the
ownership.
Hicks family was one of your partners, right? Tommy Hicks. Right?
Well, we
Or
had
no?
just bought it. Matter of fact, Tom Hicks was
Oh, you
there.
just bought it. Okay.
Yeah, Tom Hicks was there, but
Yep,
we had
Tommy's
just
a
bought
good
it
guy.
from him. And
I remember Tommy.
yeah, a media guy walked up to me and he goes, "Hey, are you part owner of the Texas Rangers?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "I said, dude, you don't want to talk to me. See that guy over there? His name's Tom Hicks. Go talk to him. I mean, that's the guy you want to talk to.
I love it.
Who the hell's Jay Young?" But anyway, but they set us up on the second deal, and it was an incredible deal. But I was there, and that's when Greg the book had just been written, for Greg, and talking about the Big Short. He's like, "Hey, have you read this book?" And I didn't know the book. I didn't know this whole thing was written about Tom Lippman's son, Greg, because Tom had passed away, and I'd met Greg several times, and so I just went up there to see him and said hello. And all of a sudden, he says, "Hey, yeah, have you read the book, The Big Short?" And I'm like, "No, not yet." I said, "But my finance guy just gave it to me." And he goes, "Oh, okay." That's all he said. He didn't say anything else. So I got back and I started reading it. I'm like, "Well, wait a minute. This is about Greg Littman. This is about Greg."
Yeah.
So Greg's a
Yeah,
great
the movie,
guy.
you got, the guy that plays Greg Littman in the movie. I can't remember which one. It was Steve Carell, but yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, I mean,
Ryan.
Greg's been around a long time. He got that right. That was a painful era.
Yeah.
Michael Lewis wrote that book. We survived that era. We ended up doing a few acquisitions as a result of what happened to the banking system, which was beneficial to us. But again, a big lessons for viewers and listeners, entrepreneurs out there. You got to think. You got to be a mental Swiss Army knife. You got to pull out the tool that you need at that moment,
Exactly.
and then you got to be very quick to change tools when the business environment is changing. And so, we almost went out of business. Actually, it was a really rough time for us, but it turned out that rough time was actually a big opportunity. We ended up buying a few assets from Citibank that were still with us today, 15 years later.
Oh wow, that's great. Is that how you So just tell me a couple of things. How did you? So your income went to nothing, or and what did you do? How did you get
I
back?
mean,
What did you do?
so I had my fund lost about 35% of its value.
Ooh.
And you say, whoa, that sounds catastrophic. But
Mm-hmm.
compared to the market was down 50. This is back in 2008. And so we started getting redemptions.
Yeah.
The Fed then cut rates. And so we started seeing the market activity rise, but they also gave a ton of money to the banking system.
Mm-hmm.
But they told banks like Citibank they had to shed their non-core assets. So Citibank had a fund of funds that they put up for sale. I bought that, or not me, but me and my partners
Mm-hmm.
bought that from Citibank
Wow.
at a discounted price. And when the market recovered, Jay, we had lost some money in our fund, but we were making it back. But we had this other fund that we had from Citibank, and the combination of those two things was quite good for us. And it ended up, I think it ended up saving the firm, if I'm
Yeah.
just being so direct. I mean,
Yeah.
we were in a perilous situation. I would have probably have had to cut staff, and I don't know, would we have made it? I always like to think that we would have made it. We've made it 20 years so far, so we're
Right.
pretty resourceful.
Yeah.
But that was as close to a near death experience as I've had in business 2008.
Wow. That's awesome. Resiliency. I bet you got a lot of that.
You gotta be resilient, Joe. What are you gonna do, right? You
But
have no
just
choice.
buying things. Yeah. But
I tell my kids, you have no choice. Can't complain. Don't play the victim. Get up in the morning, do the push-ups, make your bed, and let's go to work. Okay, let's see where we can find opportunity somewhere.
absolutely. That's awesome. That is such a great. And I mean, that's what people need to think. It's like, back when 2020, our sales went to almost zero. We're producing oil at negative numbers.
I was just saying the oil by March, April of that debacle, the oil was they were giving the oil away. I mean, you had to buy. I mean, I guess it was a
Yeah.
negative price for oil. I mean,
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God.
I had I was
Really
I was
bad.
on the Jay Young show that afternoon, and I went home at lunch and ate a sandwich, and oil was 1 penny, 0.01 at
Crazy.
home that afternoon, and then I got back
Crazy.
and I had my preacher Jack Graham from Prestonwood, who's on President Trump's speed dial, and I was talking to him on my podcast, and I had my CNBC over here on the right side, and I was just kind of talking to Jack, and we're going back and forth, and all of a sudden I look over and I'm like, I saw a negative number in front of. I was like,
I remember that.
What?
Like it was. I remember exactly where I was sitting because I was locked in my house like everybody else. I was told I
yeah.
can't leave the house.
yeah, yeah,
I was
yeah.
watching the TV, watching the data, and that was another bad time for us. By the way, we lost a lot of money in March and April of. I was not set up for the pandemic. That's another thing that happens in life.
Yeah,
I would say this from a risk management perspective: the things that you're worried about are probably not the things that are going to get you in trouble. It's the things that you think you know with absolute certainty, Jay,
right,
where you're dead wrong.
right.
Okay, and for myself, I had left I mean, I'm embarrassed to admit this today, but I will admit it. I was at a World Health Organization meeting in January, and two World Health Organization officials told us this was not going to be a big deal, that this was going to be like SARS or MERS. You remember those from like the
Oh yeah,
early 2000s?
yeah.
So I was set up long, and I was set up for a non-pandemic.
Mm.
And so when that pandemic hit, I really got hurt.
Wow.
And so, and I say this to people as a cautionary tale. It's not the things that you worry about that really hurt you because you organize yourself to prepare for that.
Right.
It's the
right.
things you think you know
Right.
that you should be worried. In other words, that you're wrong about. You think you know it certainly, but you're wrong about it. That's what
Yeah.
that's what really got me.
Wow. Unbelievable. That's great. Good words. But I tell you, the resiliency is just incredible. I love that. We're a fellow Capricorn. I looked up today, and you were born in
Oh yeah, when's your birthday?
January 3rd.
All right, there you go. We're in the same week, man. You and
Yeah.
me. Capricorns know how to eat garbage, man. Got to eat garbage. We're the goat. We're the goat of the
Man.
stars, right?
Absolutely.
We climb to the mountaintop like a good mountain goat, but we eat a lot of garbage along the way, Jay.
Absolutely. 100%, man. 100%. You never know what's on the other side, but you just got to keep chugging, man. I know. I'd listen to a lot of motivational stuff, back in 2020, and which man, you had to. Man, you got to sit there and do exactly what you're saying. Get up, do your push-ups, be positive, look and see what you're going to do every
No
day.
question, man.
I wake up every morning at 6:30 a.m. and I read the Bible. Man, that Bible's that first thing in my hand, and I just think about it. I think about how I can give back, how I can be thankful, and all of a sudden I think about what's on my day for today. And today I'm interviewing the incredible Anthony Scaramucci. Man, what a great day, huh?
You're being sweet,
Yeah.
But I mean, just talking about the Bible for a second, there's so much wisdom in the Bible, but the number one thing, because everyone says, well, what's your number one thing in the Bible? And of course, forgiveness and redemption and things like that. But for me, there's a passage in the Bible, happy is the man who's happy with their lot in life. I just want you to think about that for a second, because there's people that have more than us, there's people that have less than us. But if we have our health, Jay, we have our family around us, we're very, very blessed people, and people need to dial into that more and dial into less of what other people are doing. And it's right there in the Bible.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I'm 100% believer in that. I mean, because you can, there's the people a lot less than us that are happier than us.
No question.
And what
take
it with you.
Because they're happy with their lot in life. They've accepted who they are, and they're comfortable being who they are.
Yeah. And their job is to make other people happy. If I could reach out and make people happy instead of, trying to make their life miserable, just make happy. Let's all get on the same page. Let's make everybody happy, and let's see how many people we can make happy today. I pass out a little
100%.
I pass out a little thing, and I'll get you a copy of my book. I'm gonna sign you a copy and send it to you.
Okay, please. I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely, love for you to read it. I'm getting the second edition is going to come out because there are some things that have changed, but I don't know if maybe I need to ask you this. Instead of writing a new book with a new title and everything else, I just thought about a second edition, just kind of updating 30.
Well, I've done that as well. I wrote a book on hedge funds, and I put out a second edition. So, I've got all my books around me. Hopefully you don't mind me showing these.
No, man, I'd love it.
So I updated that book. I wrote it 12 years ago. And the good news for me with this book, a lot of universities use it. And so my publisher said, hey, could you update it? Could we put out a second edition? So we did that last November.
Yeah.
So
okay.
That's 4 or 5 months ago.
I think it's great. I mean, because there is a lot of updates, hedge funds and things of that nature, and you don't want the old book out there. You want to say, hey, no, that's not the updated version is this. And there's a lot of things that have changed in the oil and gas industry that I really feel like we can go back. I mean, my history will stay the same. I haven't changed that. I still got a fourth generation, and I got my great grandfather in the oil business and all that. But I don't have. There is some things that do change, so that's good. What else would you want to talk about? What is it that you would? And Jordan Soto is my co-host. She comes on every once in a while, but she always asks that question: what would you tell your 20-year-old self or your son AJ?
Great question.
What is it that you would tell your 20-year-old self if you could go back today? What would you?
It's a great question. I mean, I tell people risks. Got to take risks. You cannot do. How can I say this to you? You can't be afraid of your future. You got to make a bet on your future, and you got to also think about your life. Think about your life this way: if I could do anything that I want, and I knew with 100% certainty it was going to be a success, that's the thing you need to do in your life.
Yeah.
And there's been some hesitancy by me. I was always a little bit fearful because I didn't have a lot of money growing up as a kid, and I probably did some things a little bit more risk averse than I should have. And I'm, hey, listen, it's fine. It all worked out great, thank God. But I'm just telling you, that's something I wish I had been able to have a conversation with the younger version of me.
Yeah, yeah. So just had a little bit more risk, or be more.
Yeah, more risk. Be a little bit bolder.
Yeah.
Make that phone call. Don't be afraid to call somebody. Ask them for a favor.
Right.
Sometimes we need something from somebody. We're afraid to ask them because we're afraid to be rejected. The most powerful word in our language is a one-syllable, two-letter word, and it's the word no. We learn that word very, very young. Your mom doesn't want you to touch the hot stove. She says no.
Right.
She doesn't want you to fall out of the crib. She says no.
Right.
You're reaching for something to choke yourself with. She says no. And no has this like psychological effect on us. And it we hear the word no, we could feel rejected. And
Right.
so it's very hard sometimes to ask somebody for something because we feel, well, they're going to say no, and I'm going to feel bad about myself, like I wasn't worthy enough to get a yes from the person. And I think we
Right.
have to desensitize ourselves from that and learn how to accept the word no, coach ourselves through the word no. And I think I wish I would have picked up the phone more and called more people and asked for more help.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh,
Ben
really.
Franklin has a great line, Jay. I'll share it with you.
Yeah.
Ben Franklin, if you want to make a friend, ask him for a favor. One of the
Right.
best lines ever. It's
Yeah.
counterintuitive,
Yeah.
but now you've started this process of reciprocity.
Right.
A lot of people in life are very happy to help you, Jay. You know
Right.
that from your congregation. You
Yeah.
know that from your community.
Right.
If you pick up the phone and call somebody, so if I called you right now and said, Jay, I know you're best friends with the best spine surgeon in the world. Could you make an introduction for me? Would you do it?
Absolutely.
Of
100%.
course. And then you'd feel good about it. You'd
Yeah.
feel good about it. And
Absolutely.
now we're bonding. I
Right.
mean, if you want to make a friend, ask the person for a favor.
Yeah. That's awesome. A really good friend of mine, Bob Bodine, wrote the book The Power of Who, and it's an incredible book. And I've had him on the show, and I had lunch with him. No, I haven't.
I'll pick it up.
Oh, The
I'll buy
Power
it.
of Who, Bob Bodine. He's an incredible guy. I'd love to introduce you to him sometime. Next time you're in
Yeah, that'd be
Dallas,
great.
or if we're up there in New York, or whatever the case, or at your forum. I'd love to be at your forum. But
Yeah,
Bob,
that would be great. I'll invite you. We're doing two this year.
good,
We're doing one in Bermuda and we're doing one in Wyoming.
awesome.
So
That's
I'll
great.
be sure when I get off your show, I'll be sure to make sure one of my colleagues sends you an invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. Love to. That'd be awesome. That'd be really good. But Bob does the same thing. It talks about the power of who, and it talks about your network. And you have, he says, I listened to him speak again the other day, but he said, you have everybody that you need in your network right now. And he says, you don't know it. You keep
great.
looking for more people. You're doing, blah, blah, you're all, and he says, you have everybody you need right now. But he says, you can't just, ask them for, to sell them or whatever the case may be. You've got to make sure that you open up that relationship with, hey, what are you doing and how can I help you?
That is a great line, man.
Oh.
I love it.
Man, how can I help you? And it's just one of those things that you want to make sure that you're doing everything that you can to help other people, because everybody would love to help you, and they'll reciprocate, and you'll get anything in life you want. That's what Zig Ziglar, the old I don't know if you ever heard of Zig Ziglar or not, but a big powerful Christian motivator that I grew up with. He said you can get anything in life you want if you'll just help enough other people get what they want. So incredible
I
line.
love that. There was a great line on Ronald Reagan's desk. You can get anywhere you want in life as long as you don't care who gets the credit.
Right.
What a great line. Share
Yeah.
the credit, be loving, bring people into the tent. What a great line.
Yeah. Yeah. Cost you nothing. Majority of the time, cost you nothing just to shout out to people, which is incredible. That's really good. So we got like 3 or 4 minutes. I know we got to wrap up at 10:30, but we've got 3 or 4 minutes. What about the New York Mets, and what about your new owner, and what about that payroll? What's going to happen to the Mets this year?
Well, I think Steve, he's a really close friend of mine. Full disclosure, I have a lot of money in his fund. I think Steve is a brilliant guy, and he's done a few things that I think are going to work for him long term. Is he's given the baseball decisions, operation, scouting, the selection of everything to baseball people. I think sometimes owners get in trouble when they try to run that process. They may have made money in a different industry. I may be a smart person, but I'm not qualified to be a brain surgeon. And so sometimes very wealthy people sometimes think they can do everything. And I think the owners that get too involved in the operational decisions, they can't win the championship. Because what happens is you're too emotional if you're the owner. So
Right.
Steve has
Right.
detached himself. He's put some really good baseball people in there. Payroll is out of control. Juan Soto's number. I think he's getting like $600 million. I'm sorry, $600 a minute for the next 15 years.
Oh my God.
For the next 15 years of his life. Okay, so it's a $765 million package. He's a great hitter. People say he's good to have in the clubhouse. Not a great fielder. That's okay. They've got a stacked team. But remember, this, I know this. Young teams win championships. Great pitching wins championships. A phenomenal relief pitcher wins championships. So they do have those ingredients. Question is, are they going to do it this year? I don't know, but I would make a bet over the next 5 or 10 years, they will build a consistently championship-oriented quality sort of a team. You know, Steve is going to be the Dodgers of the East, if you will, and he's competing neck and neck now with the Yankees, which is something that the Mets never did in this town.
Right.
So we'll see.
Right.
I'm a huge fan, Jay. I have to confess. If I could, I didn't have other things to do, I would go to 100 games a year.
Wow, that's great. I love it. I've got a great suite here at Ranger Ballpark, but Nolan Ryan is a good friend of mine, and he was with the Mets back in 1969. Yeah. That was awesome.
Well, if I can ever get you to New York, you come to my suite. I have a signed number 30 Mets jersey from Nolan Ryan.
Oh,
I
wow.
bought it from Fanatics, and it's up there in my suite because I was a big 69, 73 Met fan.
Yeah.
We traded Nolan Ryan to the California Angels for Jim Fregosi. What a disaster. I mean, I'm sure Jim Fregosi's a nice guy. I'm just talking about quality baseball,
Yeah.
But Nolan
man.
Ryan, if you see Nolan Ryan, you tell him he's got huge fans in New York, and I'm convinced that Nolan Ryan could probably still throw in the high 90s. Okay, that SOB looks like he's still in good shape.
Oh man.
Somebody told me he's pitching every day or something like that,
Yeah.
loosening up his arm.
Yeah. No, he's
God
a great
bless
guy.
him.
Yeah, we went we flew to Castle Pines in Colorado and played golf with him and Ruth. But he's
good.
just an incredible.
I love it.
And Ruth,
Tell him he's still got a lot of friends and a lot of fondness here in the
I definitely
New York
will.
area.
I definitely will. If you watch the Netflix deal with Nolan and the Ryan family, Ruth got in the golf cart, and she got in the golf cart, and she did not hit a very good shot, and she got in the golf cart, and she just was so mad at herself, and she's like, "Come on, Ruth, just do better," and she was, man, you could tell where Nolan got a lot of that fire, man. It was from her, man.
I love it.
That's
I love it.
A lot of very successful men are powered by the women behind them, for sure. No question
I
about
love
that.
it. I
Yeah.
think it's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, hey, anything else you want to share with your fund or your whatever? Let's just wrap it up.
No, listen, I'm available at @Scaramucci on Instagram or Twitter. Anyone want? Also, my direct messages are open. People can shoot me a message. I try to respond to everybody.
Yeah.
And I would just tell you that the secret to getting successful in my mind is staying in things, be determined. I made a decision. I read a book called The Richest. You mentioned Zig Ziglar, who I'm also a big fan of, but I read a book by George Clason, which was written in the 1920s called The Richest Man in Babylon. You probably heard about it,
Oh,
Jay.
yeah.
And that book changed my life because I read that book at 17. And in the book, the message was you had to pay yourself first. And so we all have a cable bill or maybe have a car bill or a student loan or a mortgage. Just in your mind, create another bill, and that's the Jay Young bill or the Anthony Scaramucci bill, and pay yourself first.
Right.
And I put money into the stock market from age 18. I'm 61 years old. It's been a 43-year commitment to make an investment at least once a month into stocks. And so sometimes you're buying them here, and sometimes you're buying them there, and sometimes you're buying them here. But over 43 years, it's made a big difference in my life. And I just tell people, pay yourself first.
Yeah.
Make sure you make out a bill to yourself. You're the most important person that you know for yourself.
Right.
And if you do that, you'll be ahead of the game. Most people don't do that. They don't have the discipline to do it.
Yeah. Well, especially at the age of 18. But if you did that at 18 or whatever, I'm going to make sure.
It made all the difference. When we were talking about near-death experiences in business, having a little bit of a cushion allows you to think more freely, and it gives you a little bit of ability to take more risk.
Right. Exactly. That's great. That's great advice. I love that. Well, hey, everybody, this is let's wrap it up. Anthony Scaramucci, I tell you what, it's been an absolute pleasure to be here. What great advice you have, what knowledge. Man, I just love it. Can't wait to meet you again, to see you in person.
Yeah, well, you got an open invitation. You're a baseball fan, so
man, love it.
Please get up to New York. If your Rangers are playing the Yankees, send me a text.
Yeah,
and we'll be sitting in the legend seats to watch your team. All right, brother, let me know.
Great. That'd be awesome, man. I'm definitely going to be there. I'm definitely going to come up and make it a point to get up there. I need to come up there anyway. Brian Sullivan, Greg Littman, some of the other guys that I like to see. I need to get up there and see them. But thank you very much, man. You've been incredible on the show. I appreciate you, and look forward to staying in touch.
Pleasure's mine, sir. Great to be on with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
I'm a huge fan of the Jay Young Show.
Hey, there you go. What else do you need to know out there, everybody? So that's awesome. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate it.